Sustainable building. Why? Heating gets more expensive, exhaust gases pollute the air and have negative impacts on the environment. With sustainable building, you protect the environment and save money in the long run. At the moment, sustainable building itself might be more expensive than conventional building, but considering the whole life cycle of the building, it is cheaper. In addition to that, you get more comfort by ecological, high-quality building material such as sheep wool as insulation material. And when it comes to the end of the life cycle of the building, a sustainably built house supplies raw material. Here you can see a conventional construction site with steel and cement. These materials need lots of energy to be produced. This energy is called grey energy. Grey energy plus the energy for heating and cooling the building have a negative effect on its CO2 record. A natural building material like timber is energy and CO2 emission optimized. Timber grows again, binds CO2 and supports the achievement of climate protection objectives. Municipals and territorial authorities have a model functions for the citizens, especially when it comes to building. Those students benefit from the use of ecologically valuable building material. The air of the rooms is free from toxic gases that come from steel, PVC and other synthetic materials. And the craftsmen who build those houses have not been exposed to toxins either. In the last years, more than 50 public buildings were built sustainably. Compared to conventional building, the subsidies have been increased by around 20% here. Stay healthy, feel comfortably, save energy, protect the environment, and save money at the same time. This makes those buildings well liked. A team of experts supports the public building contractors with a standardized, sustainable building process. In many regions of Europe, there are different standards and quality seals for public building. The sustainable building process has the potential for a common EU standard. How does a community get to a sustainably constructed building? Do you build the same way in Italy and Sweden? Here, sustainable building begins. Harmonized indicators are the key for an international comparison. Those affect the following areas: the quality of the location and the endowment, the subsoil, the position and orientation, the existing infrastructure. Process and quality of planning. Has the building contractor considered questions about energy demand and the ecological way of building? Is there a process management? Energy and supply. How will the requirement for heating and cooling, as well as the total energy consumption, be in business? Health and comfort. Indicators which ensure a high quality of living. Building materials and construction. Do the building materials and the way they are used fulfill the ecological criteria? How big is the ecological footprint of a building, not only during construction, but also in the long run? In order to provide a profound consulting service for the communities, expert teams are formed. They give advice, train, audit, and certificate. Sustainable building refers to every single step of the life cycle of a building, from the idea to the recycling process. Sustainable building in the public area. This has been reality in Vorarlberg since 2003. The Environment Association develops along with the municipalities the space requirements for municipal buildings, the ecological program, and it also accompanies the whole building process. This is the first contact person when it comes to sustainable building.
Wenn die Gemeinde ein Interesse hat, nachhaltig zu bauen,
If a community shows interest in a sustainable building project, emphasizing energy efficiency and ecologically optimized building materials, then an appointment is made with the communal decision makers and, if necessary, with the planners. We look at the project in detail. Then we offer the community a support package to help and assist them during the entire process and to achieve their energy and ecology goals.
ökologische Ziele unterstützen.
This principle was used in the municipality of Lorenz. It was about redeveloping the town hall and the fire department.
In both buildings, there was bad quality thermic insulation. Also, the heating and sanitary facilities were not up to modern standards. Therefore, it was debated whether it was better to renovate the buildings or to construct new ones.
An expert opinion gave the stimulus to construct new buildings based on sustainable criteria. In the municipality of Klaus, a sustainable new building is to be constructed too. The Urban Planning Committee discusses the ecological goals, which are measured by a tool for assessing buildings. A high score goes along with additional subsidies. This is a measure that is geared to the model effect of those communities.
In Klaus, a gymnasium, also to be used as a multi-purpose building, is being built in accordance with very high energy-saving standards. This construction shell consists of high-quality passive house material. A photovoltaic power plant will be integrated. The material of the building interior will be selected in such a way that very few toxic substances enter the interior of the building. This keeps the pollution low for the students. Furthermore, the building assessment tool sets very high standards. The goal is to achieve 850 credits. For the town of Klaus, this means an additional subsidy of 3.5% of the construction costs.
Gerhard Gruber is an architect, but he also organizes architectural competition for communities. According to him, the following aspect is important for a successful competition.
Die Wahl des Verfahrens.
It is important to know how to carry out the procedures properly.
Dann die Grundlagen.
The basics or framework have to be carefully determined, so there is little room for interpretation and the participating architects do not bear the risks. A professional jury is used to make sure that there is a high-quality evaluation procedure of the projects. And a group of good architects. Here, the number of architects is important. More architects participating means a higher probability that one particular project will be acceptable. I'm of the opinion that it is important to define the goals of sustainability before the competition and not to demand complicated calculation models from the architects. If those goals are defined early, a sustainable building can be realized more economically than if those goals are set after the concept has been made.
Nachhaltiges Gebäude auch wesentlich ökonomischer realisiert werden, wenn diese Ziele erst im Nachhinein, wenn der Entwurf steht, eingebaut werden.
In Lorenz, an architectural competition has already been performed.
Also wir haben einen Architektenwettbewerb gemacht, wo wir eigentlich Vorgaben hatten.
One important goal of the architectural competition was to make use of synergies by constructing an integrated building complex.
Ein Architekt hat dann eigentlich in diesem Architektenwettbewerb ein bisschen ausgeschert und hat eigentlich versucht, die
One architect did not follow that guideline, however, and he tried to divide the town hall and the fire department into two buildings. In the beginning, the jury was confused, but the functional arguments were clear. From the spatial planning and structural point of view, it became clear that there were essential advantages in constructing two single buildings. In the final analysis, this proved to be successful.
The advantages of the competitions are obvious. The community gets the best building possible. It meets the specific demands of the community and follows ecological criteria. A project full of unconventional ideas and innovative details. The competition allows to explore and implement visionary concepts. Energy experts discuss from the very beginning of planning the building. The architect, the electrician and the in-house technician meet several times. They discuss and adapt their planning. Usually, we help the communities to set goals and to stick to those goals during the whole planning process. This means we have regular planning discussions, where we have the task to act as a coach between the requirements of the municipality and those of the planning architects. This means we don't plan ourselves, but we help to achieve optimized goals. Still, there are critical points, and to some extent, it is not clear for the architect how important the planning process is. For example, if a high-quality window is inserted the wrong way, you can lose a huge amount of the benefits of such a window. This mistake could already be excluded in the planning process by putting a few centimeters of insulation material in front of the shutter box. The need for heating does not necessarily mean bulky, thick walls. Interdisciplinary knowledge helps. Small changes in the planning process combine sustainable building with an attractive design.
My design preferences, or rather our design preferences, were hardly limited by different criteria like location, use of sunlight, shading, or energy retrieval. Of course, those are all aspects that have to be considered, and they do occasionally pose restrictions here and there. There are naturally great opportunities for architects in this area too.
Dass es eine riesige Chance gibt als Architekt und
especially since there are so many people who use those buildings, for example, public schools and kindergartens. Those people can act like multiplying factors. All those people who interact with the building positively multiply the purpose of the building's usefulness.
Thermal bridges are a critical point. Little changes in building technology and electricity can save energy and increase the comfort level. Here, the Energy Institute makes an important contribution.
We are an interface between the communities and the expert planners and try to provide them with hints and clues based on our experience. How do you build more energy efficiently and more ecologically, and at the same time more economically? Working according to all these principles, we derive our building materials. For example, insulation materials, pipeline lengths, or high-quality windows. The expert planners integrate those ideas and concepts into the competition for tenders. Then we check the quality of the tenders, and we also check to see that nothing has been forgotten.
This consulting activity focuses on the areas energy efficiency of buildings and the housing technology, which means heating systems, electricity, and sanitary installations. Careful planning reduces the costs of the life cycle, and the feasibility calculation is correct. When the building project is tendered, Spectrum is the advisory board. They check the bills of quantities, which means the tendering documents, according to ecological criteria and revise them.
At this stage of the project, Spectrum serves as a quality control manager, as an interface between planning and implementation. We advise the builders in two respects. On the one hand, we help them to implement the positions listed in the competition tenders. On the other hand, we advise them about which building materials to use in order to achieve the required goals.
Siegfried Lerchbaumer also checks the bills of quantities of the planners and architects.
Und im Zuge dieses Checks, damit keine Widersprüche
We also check the products that are tendered in order to prevent contradictions in the competition tenders. The reason for this is that exactly for those products, not only technological but also ecological criteria have to be listed.
The Ökobau criteria are described on the platform Baubook, Tendering Sustainably. The platform shows which criteria have to be considered. Furthermore, products are listed which have been proven to meet the needed criteria.
Die Baubook ökologisch ausschreiben ist eine Open Source
Baubook, Tendering Sustainably, is an open source platform, an internet-based database. We use it to automatically compile our ecological tender documents for each single work position. In this database, workers can also find the products they need. At the moment, 1,500 products are listed and they all meet the criteria.
geforderten Kriterien entsprechen.
A further support is information events for craftsmen that take place on a regular basis. Those information events inform craftsmen about which quality improvements can be achieved by ecological construction and how the tendering process works.
Diese Excel-Liste, also oder PD-Liste, wie es so schön heißt.
This Excel sheet, or PD sheet as we call it, was developed for workers. It helps them to redirect data from the producer to his subcontractors.
This way, the subcontractors of building material know which standard they have to guarantee. It ensures that hardly any or no toxic substances are emitted when material is processed or the building is used.
Which building materials do we use to construct this building? What do those building materials consist of? What is emitted when those materials are processed? How are the workers affected? What is emitted when the building is used?
A training session for craftsmen. The topic is sustainable building. Expert planners inform which materials, pieces of advice and databases are used in order to guide construction sites.
Beim nachhaltigen Bauen ist der richtige Material.
If you build sustainably, the use of the right materials is especially important. These materials affect the ecological footprint the building has on the environment. The use of materials also concerns the quality that is achieved in the building. In addition, it determines the degree of living quality and healthiness of the building environment. Here, the construction worker is especially important. He serves as an interface between planning and implementation.
For the renovation project House of the Child in Lech, this means ecological choice of material and energy-efficient building technology according to the most modern standards.
Dies ist eine besondere Herausforderung von unserer Seite als
This is a special challenge from our role as general contractors to show the workers which building materials with which emissions may be used. Concerning former building contracts, I am convinced that we often used materials that met the ecological criteria, even though those projects were not tendered sustainably.
The window constructor Klaus Schwarzmann from the Bregenzer Wald also pays attention his products are manufactured ecologically and sustainably.
Since we make our windows out of wood, the basic product is very ecological already. Therefore, for the other components, it is no problem for us to buy ecological materials as well. This is mainly about sheet materials, paints, and insulation profiles, and those have been on the market for some time now.
Still, the switch to sustainable construction and products was a challenge within two areas.
It was about adhesive and sealing materials. Here the supply on the market is still not comprehensive. It was also not easy to find materials that are both ecological and fulfill the requirements we need for adhesion and processing. Another aspect that might cause problems is surface treatments. Here it is often easier to use products that contain solvents which dry easily. Ecological products, however, do not contain solvents and are therefore more difficult to use properly.
For insulation, Schwarzmann uses sheep wool.
You get a natural product of very high quality. It is a product that otherwise does not really find a ready market. Here it can be used effectively. Its quality is not inferior to the quality of other products.
The choice of building materials also affects the workers on the building site. For example, when using PU foam, toxic substances are emitted.
PU foam includes isocyanides. These isocyanides are suspected of being carcinogenic. If the worker uses PU foam, those isocyanides are emitted when the foam is left to set. In the end, only rest material of this isocyanide is left. This concentration level is actually not a problem, but when the PU foam is left to set, the worker gets the whole dose.
When you build sustainably, you don't only concentrate on the use of the building, but on the whole life cycle of the building. This know-how is future-proof, innovative, and sustainable. When starting operation, the acceptance and review of the defined goals takes place. For this, a series of measurements is conducted.
Zentral dabei ist einerseits eine Thermografie.
Important measurements include the thermographic check, which assesses the quality of the building shell. Furthermore, we conduct an acoustic measurement and a measurement of the quality of the inside air. All these measurements reflect the quality criteria for using the building or the single rooms.
Des Gebäudes oder der einzelnen Nutzräume darstellt.
Siegfried Lerchbaumer is an expert on measurements in the area of inside air quality. The inside air quality is very important when it comes to comfort and health.
Here we check on formaldehyde and solvents. Formaldehyde is a quite well-known toxic substance, typically in wooden materials. It is mainly used in gluing, but it is also possible that it is added as a kind of conservation or biocide substance, and it also serves as an acid-hardening coating. The second type of material is solvents, including easily volatilized and highly volatile solvents.
A good result is directly related to the used building materials. With commissioning of the building, the air should be free of toxic substances. And it is worth the effort. You can both measure and see that the using quality of the building increases. And since the building is also energy efficient, the project also pays off due to low operating costs over the life cycle.
Am Ende steht dann ein Gebäudezertifikat.
In the end, you have a building certificate that designates the sustainable qualities of the building in planning, implementation, and usage.
From the outside, the school complex of Oberau in Feldkirch looks like a new building, but that is not the case. Some parts of the complex are more than 40 years old. The school was redeveloped sustainably only 2 years ago. The redeveloping process aimed at reducing the thermal losses, improving the whole building technology.
The building was constructed at the end of the 1960s, when the energy prices were low and therefore not important when building a house. The insulation consisted of 3.5 centimeter Heraclite sheets, which were composite panels made out of wooden fiber. Now we have a thermal insulation of 26 centimeters. For heating, the energy consumption could be reduced by 75%.
With those innovations, it comes to changes within the area of the maintenance of the building.
Auch für den Hausmeister ist es eine ganz neue Situation von früher zu.
For the caretaker or maintenance man, this is a totally new situation too. He has to attend to many technological systems. He must be trained and integrated into the transition process for newer technologies. The old building had conventional ventilation. You open the window, air comes in. The new building has a controlled ventilation system. This means that a certain constant quantity of air is interchanged during the entire day.
There is no more need to open a window. This is an adjustment for teachers and students, since users' behavior is the key element for an energy-saving operation of the building. What is special about this system is that the waste heat of a nearby plant is fed into the heating system.
Now we come to the centerpiece of the entire facility, the heating system.
A modern, well-planned technical system requires a well-informed user in order to actually use the potential to save energy. Here, the last fine-tuning of the system takes place.
In einem so hochgedämmten Gebäude ist es wahnsinnig wichtig.
In such a highly insulated building, it is very important to be thrifty with the heat. If the outdoor temperature increases, the heating has to react immediately. Otherwise, an overheating of the room may result. Then it is very hard to get the heat out of the building again. If we have 25 or 26 people in a classroom, they contribute to the temperature by about 2 to 2.5 kilowatts.
Im Hauptschulbereich sind wir bei circa Erwärmung vom Morgen bis am Abend zwischen 2.
In an average middle school, the temperature on a day with normal conditions increases by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. This especially applies to spring or summer operations. This additionally generated heat has to be lowered by cooling at night.
Ein Hauptbereich ist auch das elektrische Licht.
Another important point is electrical light. The light system is automatically controlled by movement. Originally, all rooms were calculated with a theoretical luminosity, whereby there is always a buffer. By using an actual measurement, we try to find out if we can decrease the luminosity. Although it is comfortable enough in the building, we can still save this buffer value.
Aber diese Spanne natürlich einsparen können.
The computer monitoring system controls the energy consumption. Within this area, it is also possible to save energy. The way and length you use the building determines light intensity, ventilation and heating.
Wir haben sehr viele Messstellen eingerichtet in diversen.
Within diverse systems, we have included measuring points in order to determine how much is consumed. They are registered permanently and are also adjusted and optimized in the first period of the building use.